All right, good morning, folks. Today I'm going to be making the Crazy Quilt block number 3, and you see it here on the screen. It is making the 8x8 size, but I have added an extra step at the very last step to all of these sizes, where you can, if you don't want to make a quilt block, you can do the last step, which if you change bobbin thread to the color of your top thread and put a piece of fabric right side up on the back of your hoop, the last step will do a satin stitch all the way around the design, thereby closing it up, sealing it closed. And you could, if you put in Insulbright, you could use it as a pot holder, I would think, but I'm just going to use it as a mug rug. So I'm going to just put a piece of, and I'm known for this, a piece of towel that I cut 2 inches larger than I cut it, about 10 inches by 10 inches for an 8-inch design. So I have just did the first step, which was the outline. Step number 1 is the outline of the mug rug / quilt block / hot pad. So anyhow, and I intend on putting that satin stitching on every one of these designs from this point out. So let me put on this piece of towel, bath towel, old bath towel that I'm reusing, and put it down over the placement stitches here, and then I will sew it down, and that's what we will attach our fabric to. So let me go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, I have, as you can maybe see, I have tacked down this old piece of towel, and now I'm going to run step 3, which is going to be the placement stitches to show us where we place all of our fabric. So I'll be back in a moment. All right, now you see my lovely old purple towel that I had cut, and you can look here on your screen and you see where the first piece of fabric needs to be placed. So let me grab a piece, and I will place it. And I hope you have watched one of my 2 prior videos on block making. So it describes to you, I describe to you how to make sure that you have plenty of at least a ½ inch over on the exterior, past the exterior stitch line, so you always have some of the fabric going over into the what would be over here on this side, or up here, up at the top above the exterior line, because I'm not going to explain that. I think I've explained it well in the other videos, and I'm sure you've watched them also. So I'll just try to cut to the chase. Anyhow, let me find a piece of fabric to place over that, and I'll run the tack down of that fabric and show you what that looks like. All right, you can see this first piece of fabric that's been sewn down. I'm going to trim it. I'm going to come in, I will explain it. I said I wasn't going to, but I will explain it one more time. Come in from the side, cut straight over to here, cut right along the edge here, and right off the side up here. So let me do that. All right, you can see now that I have trimmed it all around the sides, but I left, I didn't trim it on the exterior sides, so that's what you need to be careful to leave at least a ½ inch or so on the exterior sides of the pieces. So the next piece, as you can see, is over here right adjacent to it in the right hand corner. So let me find a piece of fabric to use there, and I will place it over the design, or over the portion here, and sew it down. So I'll be right back. All right, now you can see how I have trimmed it, and as I said, again, leaving plenty of fabric on the exterior of the design. So let me look over here and see what our next, okay, our next piece of fabric needs to be, it's got a beautiful heart in it, and so it needs to be light colored. I'm using gold thread. It needs to be, well, it could be black or a dark color, I suppose. I'm going to have to scrounge to find what will look good with that. So let me do that, and I'll be back in a bit. All right, you can see now that I have found a nice color that'll work with gold. And for this one piece, this is no, there's another piece of internal. Well, anyhow, I was going to say, I will say, go ahead and for these internal pieces, you need to trim them the entire way around, which I've done with this one, because nothing is hanging over into the outside of the sewing line. So I've trimmed it all the way around, and let me look over to my machine, and that's our next fabric or our next placement. So let me find something to go over there, and I'll be right back. All right, you can see I've placed the next piece, and leaving a nice big space out here for in the outside of the stitch line. So now let's look and see where our next piece is going to be. Okay, it's that one by the heart. And today I'm brought this out of the closet. I'd had this in storage. I'm using the Baby Localissimo, which is a great machine. It's probably 15 years old, but it still works fine, and I just decided I need to use it and keep it running. So that's what I'm sewing on today. And let me grab the fabric and place over that, and I'll stitch it down and trim and be back. Now you see on this piece here, it is one little tiny bit touches the exterior line, and I left this little cutout here just so it would have something to attach to be sewn down in as the one of the final steps where it goes around, the machine goes around the exterior of the project. So anyhow, that's what I did there, but I trimmed all the other sides, of course. And let's look and see what we're doing next. All right, we're doing that piece in the corner, so let me grab something that will go on this piece here, and I'll be back after I sew it down. Alrighty, you see that I have sewn that down and left plenty areas in the margin, I'll call it, which I'm calling the area outside of the stitch line in the margin. So then let's look over here to our machine, and you see the next area we're going to stitch. So let me grab a piece of fabric and put that over it and stitch that down and trim it, and I'll be right back. All right, you see this piece here that I've trimmed on the interior parts and left plenty in the margin. So let's look next and see where we're going. Okay, we're going to put, it's going to be this piece right here. So let me find the piece of fabric for that. I will stitch it down, trim it, and be right back. All right, you see the piece right here. And now I've left something in to be in the margin. And we're down to our last piece, which will go right here. So let me find something, and I'll do the sewing, the trimming, and be right back to show you. Okay, and you see that I have trimmed that, and I left this little pie-shaped piece out in the margin area. So we're now completed as far as what I'll call piecing. And now we're going to start with our fancy stitches, and each stitch, each line of stitches is in a different crazy quilt stitch and in a different step, in a separate step. So we'll go through each of those. I'll just get all of them, take care of all of them, and when they're all done, I'll come back and show you. But I did put them in separate steps, so in case you wanted to run some and maybe not all of them. But anyhow, let me take care of that, and I'll be back in a bit. Alrighty, all of the pretty stitching has been completed, and you can see it. I'm going to press that, hopefully get some of the wrinkle out, but all of the beautiful crazy quilting stitches have been completed. Now I'm going to do the same thing and run all of the beautiful fills that are going to be in all of these separate pieces. So I'll do that and I'll be back momentarily. Okay, all of the beautiful fills have been completed, and I forgot to tell you earlier, but first it stitches, like for instance over here it stitched out the hearts, and then in the next step it stitches out the area around this piece, and I put it in two separate I put the fill in one step and the surrounding outlining part in another step, in case I like my fills to have that, to me, the completed look, to have it, go all the way around each of these individual pieces. But you can obviously omit that if you don't like that or don't want to fool with doing it. And then I've moved on to the next step, which is simply step 40. It's simply where the machine will go around the entire stitch, the entire exterior here. As you see, it's in the middle of doing that right now, and we'll just sew this down. And then there's one more. The next part is one part I was telling you about, where we'll do a satin stitch if you want it to, which I do want it. But first I've got to turn the, after this is done, this step here, I've got to turn the hoop over and put a piece of fabric, probably maybe this blue fabric, I think I've got some more of that, cut about 10 by 10, and let it, that go face right side up, and tape it down on the back, covering the design, and then it will go around with the satin stitch in the last step. And you need to change your bobbin thread also, so it's not so it looks pretty on the back side also. Anyhow, let me continue to do that, and I'll be back in a bit. All right, I got a little ahead of myself actually. This round went around that went around the entire outer part of the design, and sewed down all of this little pieces here. Now you need to turn the design over to the back side, and you need to take a piece of fabric that you want to be right side up, that you want to be showing on your on the back of your mug rug, and you or whatever you're making, hot pad, and you need to tape it down. As you see, I've taped mine down on all four sides, and you need to stick this back in your machine, and it's next going to do a round of zigzag stitches to secure everything nice and make sure everything's really nice and secured. So go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. Alrighty, I ran the zigzag. I think you can see it right here, and also the piece on the back, the black piece, you can see the zigzag there. Now it's important at this point that you take in your bobbin and put in whatever color you want to be on the back side of this. In this case, this is black fabric. I'm going to use, basically, I'm taking out the white bobbin. I'm going to put in a bobbin that's multicolored. I think it's real pretty. That'll look nice on the back. So anyhow, all right, now that we have finished running the zigzag stitch on the front, having put on the back piece also, we are going to take now and get your applique scissors out, and we're going to trim all of this right here at the stitches. Trim all of this away and turn the hoop over when you're finished with that, and trim the back piece also right up to the stitches. So let's do that, and then We're almost done. All right, you can see that I trimmed not only the quilting fabric, but I trimmed also the towel, which I was using as my batting, basically, to give a little substance. And on the back, I trimmed also all the way around this back piece. And I have changed my bobbin to be, as I think I said before, some pretty variegated bobbin thread. I think it'll look nice. Otherwise, I would have just put in more gold, which is what I've got on the top of my machine. But I'm going to try this variegated since I had some and see what it looks like. So now we're ready to do the last step, which is step 42. And this will put a satin stitch all around the exterior perimeter. So let's start that and see how that works out, and I'll be back in a moment. All right, the stitching has finally completed. That was 42 steps. And you might wonder what these red marks are around my hoop. After I put my stabilizer in, which you probably realize or know that I use paper towels as stabilizer, once I put it in, I take a magic marker and line all four sides right up against the edge of the hoop, in case, as has been known to happen, your design just falls out of your hoop onto the floor. Therefore, with having those, you'll know basically how to put it back in. And I have had that happen before, and I had those marks there, and it lined up exactly perfectly. So I was glad to have those. So anyhow, enough of that. That was just a little tip. We need to take this out of the hoop, and we need to remove the paper towel. We need to remove the paper towel stabilizer. So let me do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, I have removed the stabilizer, and I'm going to take my scissors and go around the edges and try to get rid of some of this towel sticking out. So I didn't do that great a job in trimming it before, apparently. And then you can see the back, which is interesting. The gold thread came through here and here, but on the sides, on this side and on this side, the thread that I put in the bobbin came through. I don't understand how that happened, but obviously the tension in this thing is not that hot. But, well, I don't know. It still did a good job here on the front. The satin stitch looks really nice on the front, which is what matters the most to me. Anyhow, I'm going to go along and trim off some of this towel, and that's the end of this little tutorial. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope if you decide to obtain these quilting files that you will make a quilt, or you'll make, now you can see you can do something else. You can make, this is going to be a mug rug for me, or you could make a hot pad if you put Insulbrite in it. I would think. I would certainly try it. But anyhow, I appreciate everyone continuing to support me and your kind words and thoughts that you comment. And so thank you so much, and I'll be back in a day or two with another quilting design. Take care. Bye-bye.